Good day. Today, I'm going to talk about data presentation. I'm Dr. Jennifer Niles, professor from the Department of Preventive and Community Medicine. These are the objectives of my lecture: to determine the different methods of presenting data and to determine the appropriate method for presenting data. What is data presentation? It is a method by which we organize, summarize, communicate information using a variety of tools such as tables, graphs, and diagrams. What are the uses of data presentation? They make easy understandability of the data by readers, they make easy comparisons, and they attract attention. What are the different ways of presenting research data? Either we can present data using textual, meaning you describe the data in text in terms of words, sentences, or paragraphs, or in table form or tabular, wherein you list data in words, numbers, or symbols in an arrangement which permits easy comprehension, or charts using graphs and diagrams and presenting the data visually. What are the principles of data presentation? It should be simple, interesting, concise without losing important details, but detailed enough to facilitate further analysis. What are textual data? This is the simplest form of presenting research data because few figures are presented. All the data are presented in the form of words, phrases, sentences, or paragraphs. It involves enumerating important characteristics, emphasizing significant figures, and identifying important features of data. So this is an example of a textual data found in a research study entitled COVID-19 Vaccine Hesitancy Among Medical Students. This whole text is written as a textual data. Survey was completed by 168 of 494 medical students with a response rate of 34%. The sample was 57 female and divided equally between preclinical, 51%, and clinical, 49% students. Nearly all respondents, or more than 98%, agreed with the importance of developing a COVID-19 vaccine to decrease community spread. Although 98% of students agreed they would likely be exposed to COVID-19, only 53% indicated that they would participate in a COVID-19 vaccine trial, and 23% of students were unwilling to take a COVID-19 vaccine immediately upon FDA approval. Clinical students were more likely to participate in a vaccine trial, 62 versus 44%, with a p-value of 0.02. The reason why I call this a textual data, because this data that I have just read are not found in a table. The next kind of data presentation is tabular data. So this is organization of data into rows and columns, and these tables can clearly convey large amounts of information that would be cumbersome to write in paragraph form, such as that which I illustrated earlier. What are the rules in making a table? A number is assigned to a table. Example, you write table 1. A title is given to a table, and that table title should be concise and self-explanatory, and the contents of the tables should be defined clearly. Subtitles are written for rows and columns, and if there are group intervals in columns and rows, they should neither be too narrow nor too wide and should be mutually exclusive. The unit of measurement should be mentioned clearly. Any symbol should be explained in the footnote, and there should be a logical arrangement of data in the table. So this is the anatomy of a table, where there is table number, title, row heading, column headings, row entries, body of the table, total, footnote, and source. So footnotes explain the symbols in the table, usually the kind of statistical analysis employed. These are examples of tables. It can either be a simple table with just one characteristic, meaning gender is the characteristic being illustrated in this table. Double table with two characteristics, meaning the gender and the food habit. This is a triple table with three characteristics such as gender, food habit, and age, as well as multiple table with gender, food habit, age, and residence. This is an example of a multiple table. So this is just a snapshot from the previous research that I have talked about earlier. There are many survey items included in this table. So in research, most of the time we make use of tables in presenting our data because this is the easiest to assemble, straightforward, and further analysis can be done because the data are detailed. So let's now go to graphs and diagrams. I will be explaining and illustrating the different graphs and diagrams listed here. The purpose for this lecture is for you to be familiar with the other ways of presenting data. So for graph, we have histogram, frequency curve, frequency polygon, ogives, line graph, bar diagrams, which can be simple, multiple, and component bar diagram, as well as percentage bar diagram, deviation bar diagram, and pie diagram. What are the advantages of graphs or diagrams over tabulation? So they are attractive. They give a bird's eye view of the data. They can be understood by laymen. However, there are limitations of the graphs diagrams over tabulation. Since they are visual aids, they cannot be considered as alternatives for numerical data or tabulation. They are not as accurate as tabular data, hence cannot be used for further analysis. Observers can also be misled easily by graphs and diagrams, so they can combine groups to make it appear as bigger. Here are some examples why I said that graphs and diagrams sometimes mislead the viewers. These are deliberate ways by which data are presented to mislead. One is by omitting the baseline. So in most cases, the baseline for a graph is 0, but writers can skew how data is perceived by making the baseline a different number. This is known as truncated graphs. So here, if they started the vertical axis at 50, makes a small difference between groups. Seem massive. So group A looks much larger than groups B and C. But when we start the vertical axis at 0, it offers a more accurate depiction of the data. So the difference between the groups does not seem as dramatic. So here also is one way of misrepresenting the data by manipulating the y-axis. They expand or compress the scale on a graph, which can make changes in data seem more or less significant than they actually are. So the scale is disproportionate to the data, so making the change over time seems small. So the scale here is in intervals of 10. In this second graph, the scale here is intervals of 5. So the scale is proportionate to the data, showing a greater change over time. Another way of misrepresenting the data is by cherry-picking the data. Writers may only include certain data points on their graphs to reinforce their narratives. This can create a false impression of the data. Here, only a few months out of the year are graphed, depicting an upward trend. If you use a much wider date range, an overall downward trend will be seen. So this graph shows the actual and bigger picture. Using the wrong graph. The type of graph you should use should depend on the type of data you want to visualize. Using the wrong type of graph can skew the data. Writers will sometimes use the wrong type of graph on purpose. So pie charts are used to compare parts of a whole and not the difference between groups. A different type of graph should be used to compare the three teams. So a bar graph is more accurate of showing the differences between the groups. So this chart is a better visualization of the data. We will now compare histogram and bar graph because they look the same. So a histogram is a graphical representation that display data by way of bars to show the frequency of numerical data. A bar graph is a pictorial representation of data that uses bars to compare different categories of data. The data in a histogram are non-discrete variables or continuous variable, while a bar graph, the data in the variables in bar graph are discrete variables. I will be talking about the difference between a continuous variable and a discrete variable in the next slide. So in histogram, bars touch each other, hence there are no spaces between bars, while in a bar graph, bars do not touch each other, hence there are spaces between bars. Here, the elements in a histogram are grouped together so that they are considered as ranges. So it's from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30, and so forth. While in the bar graph, elements are taken as individual entities. So here, one element is class 5, class 6, class 7, class 8, and class 9. A histogram cannot be rearranged. So this is the actual arrangement of the bars in a histogram. But a bar graph, you can arrange this in such a way that the highest can be in the left side, and the lowest frequency will be in towards the right side, and the width of the bar in a histogram need not be the same, but in a bar graph the width of the bars should be the same. So what's the discrete versus continuous variables? So discrete variables are countable in a finite amount of time. So when we say it's discrete, it's something that you can count in a finite amount of time. So the example of that is money. While continuous variables would literally take forever to count. In fact, you would get to forever and never finish counting them. So an example of this is age. You can't count age. Why not? Because it would literally take forever. For example, you could be 25 years, 10 months, 2 days, 5 hours, 4 seconds, 4 milliseconds, etc. But you could turn age into a discrete variable and then you could count it already. For example, we can convert age as person's age in years or baby's age in months. So age, which is continuous variable, is now converted into a discrete variable. So question, is the variable number of planets around the star discrete or continuous? Or is the variable temperature in Metro Manila discrete or continuous? So you'll be able to answer this towards the end of this lecture. Bar diagram or bar chart. Bar diagram consists of series of rectangular bars of equal width. The bars stand on common baseline with equal gap between one bar and another. The bars may be either vertical or horizontal, and the bars are constructed in such a way that their lengths are proportional to their magnitudes. Note that the space between consecutive bars are equal and the bars are of equal width. Some schools of thought also say that you use a vertical graph if the data is ordinal, so meaning there is some sequence to the data. So here, the sequence is the number of illness episodes. So it ranges from 0 to more than 9 plus. While you use a horizontal bar graph if the data is nominal. So you have a leeway to order it from highest to lowest. So you can highlight the highest to the smallest categories as shown in this slide. Here, the data are drawn starting from the highest number from the bottom to the top. So horizontal bar graphs are appropriate when you present data with long labels that would be hard to display below a vertical bar. Also, if you are trying to display a large number of data sets on the category axis. In a multiple bar chart, 2 or more sets of interrelated data are represented. So multiple bar chart facilitates comparison between more than one phenomenon. In this case, import and export. It is like drawing 2 simple bar charts, but the difference is that we use different shades of colors to distinguish between the different phenomena. We draw multiple bar charts if the total of the different phenomena is meaningless. We now go to the component or stack bar diagram. Here, the data have items whose magnitudes have 2 or more components. Hence, the items are represented by rectangular bars of equal width with the height proportional to the magnitude. Then the bars are divided so that the subdivisions in height represent the components. To distinguish the components from one another clearly, different shades are applied and index, this is the index, describing the shades is provided. This diagram is drawn when a comparison of total magnitudes along with the component is required. The component bar chart here is an alternative to the pie graph, as this is also used to show how a whole is divided into smaller rectangles. That is the area of a rectangle representing the parts. This is preferable when comparing compositions of two or more different groups. Using the same data, we can convert it to the percentage component bar chart where we express each component as the percentage of its respective total. Okay, what is this chart and what is this chart?
Frequency polygons are a graphical device for understanding the shapes of distributions. They serve the same purpose as histograms, but are especially helpful for comparing sets of data. Frequency polygons are also a good choice for displaying cumulative frequency distribution. The variable is drawn along the x-axis and the frequencies along the y-axis. Frequencies are plotted against the class mean values, and then these points are joined by a straight line. The curve obtained is the frequency polygon. Total area under the frequency curve represents total frequency. As the frequency polygon is drawn by joining the class marks with line segments, a frequency curve is a smooth freehand drawn curve. What are deviation bar diagrams? These are useful for presenting net quantities which have both positive and negative values. The positive deviations are presented by bars above the baseline, while negative deviations are presented by bars below the baseline. This is an example of a pie chart. If data are presented in percent or actual figure and divided into parts, example here, 5 parts, provided that the whole circle is 100% or total of the whole variables. This is not applicable to research data with 2 or more variables. In this pie chart, there's only one variable, and the variable is the causes of maternal deaths. And these are the percentages of these causes. It's not appropriate sometimes to use pie chart for ordinal data. So it's better to use stack bar chart or column chart. So in this case, the ordinal data here are items which the answers of which are strongly agree, agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. So column charts is the best way to represent this data. Histograms also are a great alternative to pie charts when your groupings are ordinal or sequential like age ranges. Instead of a pie chart, use a column chart or bar chart if there are negative numbers. If you have time series data, that is patterns over time, use a line graph. Quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 represent time. If you have more than 3 slices, do a bar chart instead of a pie chart, and you can even order the bars from greatest to least or least to greatest. If you have multiple pie charts, use the multiple stack bar chart. Let's now go to line graph or time series graph. We use line graphs to display the comparison between 2 variables which are plotted on the x-axis and y-axis. The x-axis represents time, while the y-axis represents quantity. It displays a change in direction. It also shows trend of an event. You can compare multiple variables in just one line graph. Here, the variables compared are mortality rates for communicable diseases, malignant neoplasms, and diseases of the heart from 1976 to 1990. Ogive. This is also referred to as the cumulative frequency graph and is used primarily to depict absolute or relative cumulative frequency of a quantitative variable. An ogive would be perfect for showing something like accumulated savings over time. So, for example, let's say you invest 5,500 each year in a retirement savings account for 9 years from age 30 to 39. You might even be more interested in the accumulated amount over time. So if you plot it, it will look that way. It is the total of the original amount plus the increase per year. Scatter plot. It is a graph that plots along two axes at right angles to each other the relationship between two variable quantities. Here, the variable quantities are height and weight. So it gives us a rough estimate of the type and degree of correlation between the variables. By type meaning positive correlation, negative correlation, or no correlation at all. Finally, this is the pictograph. This is a kind of graph which uses pictures or symbols as information. So the pictographs make data visually interesting.
This table summarizes the graph type, the purpose of the graph, and the nature of the variables, whether they are continuous, discrete, nominal, etc. And these are the highlights. You're able to differentiate textual, tabular, and graphical diagram methods of data presentation. We're able to identify the main reason for choosing a particular data presentation method. And we are able to differentiate the different kinds of graphs and diagrams from each other. Let me end my presentation with this quote. The problem isn't finding data, it's figuring out what to do with it. And these are my references. Thank you for listening.